Little girl waits for dad at train station for 3 days. A man approaches her and was shocked to see this. Stephen discovered a little girl crying at the train station waiting for her father, but while trying to contact the girl's mother, she showed him a picture of her dad and he was shocked. It was a typical day at the train station where Stephen had worked for over 7 years. His job involved standing and patrolling a lot, but it was mostly peaceful. There were few disturbances at the trains. People just wanted to get their destinations as quickly as possible. Mostly, he handled a few rowdy teens or helped someone get to the proper gate. A few people would forget their belongings, and Stephen took them to the lost and found area of the station, hoping they would find their way back to their owners. He liked his job. It wasn't the fanciest career, but unlike some people, he didn't hunger for more. Stephen was not looking to climb some corporate ladder or become a millionaire. Yes, money was nice, but it wasn't the most important part of his life. Not for him, anyway. His dreams involved a lovely woman and a family of his own, but he had yet to find one. Instead, he would visit his parents often, help his cousins with their kids, and attend family gatherings. His mom's potluck potato salad was the best. With that in mind, he looked at his watch, hoping it was time for lunch already. But he'd have to wait another half hour to take his break. Stephen began whistling and walking again. A tap on his shoulder distracted him. "Excuse me, sir," a woman with bright blonde hair said. "There's a little girl crying on the bench. I think she's alone." Stephen frowned. "Where?" The woman pointed. He thanked her for being vigilant and walked briskly towards the bench. He saw the little girl quickly. She was sitting alone on the bench and her cries could be heard as few people were around. "Hey there, what's wrong, sweetie?" he greeted, leaning a bit. The little girl looked up and answered through her cries, "Dad promised to return." "Your dad left you here?" Stephen asked, appalled. "No, I came to wait for him," she shook her head. "Oh, well, where's your mommy?" "Home." Stephen's eyebrows rose at that answer. He wasn't sure, but this girl could have run from home to the train station while her mother was not paying attention. Walking a few paces away, he spoke into his comm, telling his colleagues about a lost girl. It was protocol. They would contact the authorities and try to get things sorted. His mother may have called the police and they would come for the girl. Once he was done with the comm, Stephen went back and sat with the girl on the bench. "Everything will be all right, girlie," Stephen comforted the still crying child. "Your mommy will come and your dad too, probably." "Really?" The little girl looked up and stopped crying as hope rose on her face. "Oops, shouldn't have said that. Might not be true," Stephen thought. "Well, possibly, but it's better to wait at home with your mom than here at the station all alone, right?" Stephen said and immediately panicked when the girl's face crumbled. "Wait, don't cry again," he urged. "Tell me about your dad. What did he tell you?" "He left like always. We come here when he comes back, but it's too long," the little girl replied, her lips puckering. "He's been gone for too long?" Stephen said, deciphering her words, the side of his mouth turning. Her dad was probably traveling for work and would return soon. Children didn't have a correct measure of time and she missed him. "Yeah, too long," she continued, nodding thoughtfully. But before Stephen could say more, his comm beeped and his colleague said the mother had been located and was rushing to the station. She'd apparently called the police about an hour earlier after the girl got away from her at the supermarket nearby and disappeared. Stephen thanked his buddy and turned back to the child. "Girlie, your mommy's coming soon. You get to go home," he told her. "Okay," she said, dejected. He wanted to cheer her up desperately. "Do you have a picture of your father? Maybe I can help. I work here. If I see him, I'll tell him to rush back to his little girl." The girl's eyes widened and she reached into her pocket for a crumpled paper. Stephen opened it with a smile, only for it to fall at the sight before him. The picture showed the little girl, who must have been about a year younger when it was taken. There was a beautiful woman too, but beside her was his brother Andy. Andy, who left home at 18 never to return. He always said he wanted to leave their small town and do something with his life. He told the family they were pulling him down, they were a burden to him. A few years later, Stephen contacted him when their grandfather died, but Andy refused to help or come to the funeral, and eventually he blocked Stephen's number. He hadn't heard from him in over 10 years. The idea that Andy had become a father was astounding, but worst of all, his family lived in that town, meaning he'd been there all along, or for a while at least. He hadn't visited their parents or told them anything, and somehow he knew he wasn't returning for this little girl and the beautiful woman in the picture, the woman who was running towards them, her hair flying with her fast movements. "Samantha, oh my God," she said breathlessly, wrapping her arms around the girl as she started to tear up. "How could you do this to me? I was so scared." "Sorry, Mommy," the little girl said, her head bowed down. Stephen looked at them and felt anger. He was furious at his brother for the first time. For years, he had justified Andy's actions, chalking it up to him being ambitious. But this was different. Andy had abandoned his own family. "Hey, sir, oh my." The woman finally looked up from her grill and smiled at Stephen. "Thank you so much. I've been dying thinking she was kidnapped, or worse, just thank you." "Ma'am, this might sound weird, but is your husband's name Andy?" he asked, standing from the bench. "Oh, well, we never got married, but we were together," the woman said wryly. She looked down at the top of her child's head. "She was waiting for him, right?" "Yes, she showed me this picture," he explained. "Ma'am, Andy's my brother." "What?" the woman frowned. "Well, I guess you could say we're estranged. It's a long story. He left at 18 and didn't want to be tied down to this town or family. He had ambitions," Stephen rambled. "Anyway, we didn't know about you. What's your name?" "Andy told me he had no family," the woman said, shaking her head slightly. "Well, I'm Claire and this is Samantha, but that can't be. It makes no sense." Her eyes squinted while looking at Stephen, and he knew she finally noticed the minor resemblance. "Nice to meet you, Claire. I'm Stephen. Where's Andy?" he asked directly. She looked down in shame and shook her head again. She mouthed the words, "He left us." That was just like his brother, and Stephen finally cut his brother off, figuratively. "Well, I want you to know you're not alone. We have a big family, and my parents would love to meet you both." Claire's face brightened. Stephen would later discover she had no family, and the idea of her daughter having grandparents, cousins, and a ton of extended family was very welcome. "Let me call my mom," he said. He introduced them to the family, and they blended in quickly. Andy never showed up again, but Stephen made sure Claire and Samantha never needed his brother again. He was enough for them.